There weren't exactly what you could call a right lot of questions, which is good. I hope it's in a good way because you took it on board and it's gone in there and made sense, and hopefully made a hell of a lot more sense today now that you've seen the same things used yet again in a different way, in a different context, but ultimately everything that we spoke about. Brilliant, that's non-verbal cue. He now asks a question, go on.
The reason there are no questions was we're very intelligent.
Oh, nice! That's what it is then, you're all so intelligent that you took it all on board so quickly in a way that's right for you, that you didn't need to ask anything. Brilliant.
You've been telling us all weekend, use your intelligence.
Alright, well there was embedded commands amongst the weekend, obviously. Brilliant, put them into shot now. It doesn't look like Saturday morning, music, editing. Oh, I've just given the secret away now. We had to film the music after. Right, those of you who got the books, don't worry, if you haven't been able to get one today, it just means you don't get it signed. But you can order it off the internet. In there is the questionnaire that we spoke about. That's the only missing link that we've not looked at in any great depth, although we did yesterday. But the actual things that it asked on it, albeit that the wording is in the book, but in some cases it's the meta-model question where, what specifically? In most of the cases it's not, because that's just arty-farty, winky-wanky bullshit. First thing, your full name. Obvious reasons that. Well, it's obvious reasons when you know that not only does this A4 sheet, when you type it up, serves the information you use within the session to make it more personalised, like we said yesterday, but also when you remember that they're going to sign it, indemnifying you legally so they can never sue you. So it's quite important that their name's on it for that reason. You do ask them, what do your friends call you, like we did before, because that does have a different psychological effect. We are conditioned, by the way, what people call us. The voice tone we use, I can look at you now and say, fuck off. And you see, you laugh. But if I came right in your face and went, fuck off! If it wasn't in the context of this seminar, you'd probably lamp me back and I'd be out on the floor. But it's not always what you say, it's the way you say it, or the voice tone, the inflection, the speed, the volume, which hopefully made sense today when you saw me walking around. And incidentally, I'm not saying you have to walk around like I did when you're treating one-to-one clients or doing a group session. But personally, because I'm used to being on stage, by walking around, I feel like I am on stage. And that is, if you like, in NLP terms, my peak performance state. It also, potentially, if you notice, I did walk around. So when I'm talking, my voice is automatically changing in the sense of it may sound louder when I get to here than it does when I get to here. So there's a disorientation and confusion factor in it as well. That's not why I do it personally, but it's something for you to consider. Because the more you add to the mix, and I know there's a saying you can over-egg the cake. And yeah, you can, but I'd say having somebody come back week after week after week after week after week after week after week to find out what the problem is, to sort it out, is over-egging the cake. I'd say that wasting time asking meta-model questions to find the specific thing so that then you can decide which of these NLP techniques to use? Bollocks, use them all. Because your session's still going to be roughly the same length of time, because the only difference is, instead of finding out which one to use, which takes all the time then using it, you just use them all in the first fucking place. It's not rocket science. Although apparently it is if you're a namper. Right. Their address, telephone, email. You want that for back-end marketing purposes. You also want it because of the legal nature of the document. But if you've got their email, it's great these days, because you can have a small print on the bottom that I agree for my email address to be used for marketing purposes. And then when they've signed it, that means you can spam them with every wonderful, magical little manual you've come up with, and life-changing seminar for this, and firewalk experience that you're going to do, or whatever. That's the money side, but that's the secrets of hypnotic success seminar, available very reasonably on DVD from Mr. Hill. Their date of birth. Their date of birth is because of what we said yesterday. By having their date of birth, when you come to find out how long they had the problem, you can automatically in your mind, simple mathematics, or wait till their eyes are closed, get a calculator. If you want to keep it really lazy, find out how old they were when it started, so you can do that mind-ready bit of mentioning that within your suggestions. Okay? What's your problem? And that's literally the question. Not what specifically is your problem, which would be a meta model question in NLP. What's your problem? I want them to waffle on for 3, 4, 5 minutes, because it kills part of that 1 hour session. Aside from that, 9 times out of 10, if you feed that back, as I said before, it still seems personal to them, so it actually ends up helping them. So it's a double-edged beneficial sword. 5, how long have you had the problem? That's what I just mentioned before. 6, how do you feel it started? Not how do you specifically know and experience and feel it inside it started, which would be more NLP. How do you feel it started? Again, they waffle on for 3 or 4 minutes. I say 3 or 4 minutes. It seems like 3 or 4 minutes. In truth, it's 30, 40 seconds. Because they just... And obviously you just make some notes. 7, what do you feel I need to do today to permanently solve this issue for you? And they'll either come out with an answer, or they'll look at you blank like, what do you mean? Which is a logical reaction, given that you're supposed to be the expert. You say, well, I'm just interested, before we begin, in what preconceived ideas you might have as to what we're going to do today to help you leave here the confident, happy, healthy, relaxed non-smoker that you've now become. Embedded commands, you're saying, oh, you're recognising it all now. Whatever they say, as long as it's not too over the top, illegal, involves animals or anything like that, depending on what they say, you can then go, even if it's a lie, well actually, that's very, very, insightful of you. We are actually going to do some of that today, or all of that. And if it means adding a few extra sentences in, along the way in that basic structure, so it looks like you've done what they expected and believed it could be, then you become the actor playing the part of the person they expected you to be, so it makes it a damn sight easier, it feels a damn sight more comfortable, it fits in with their belief system and reality. Why fucking change people's belief systems to then try and help change them when you can just use their belief systems they've already got against them to help them change the things that really matter, which is what was ever causing the problem. Cool. 9, what was the best experience of your life? The one that made you feel really good, proud, on top of the world, you felt invincible, really, really good. Whatever it is. That's so that then when you do your anchoring later, you can then actually verbally say, think of that time in your life when, and you've got the notes. But by that time there's all zoned. They've probably forgotten telling you that, so it's another of these, it's inside my mind type elements. 10, what was the worst and most painful event in your life? Whatever it is, again, that's so that when you do your pain and pleasure switch over, you can use that is personal to them, categorically, directly, and specifically, something like that. Number 11, who's the most important person that you love in the world to you? Some of them will go, me. Fine, and then ask me, no, other than yourself, who do you love most? Now the reason I ask this is, it's only certain conditions or problems where that question, actually the answer to it comes in useful. I mean, I suppose you could build it into the pain and pleasure with any problem. But I found with smoking, especially with females, especially if you've got kids, they'll tend to say they're children. If you can then, when it comes to it says the aversion therapy bit, do stuff like get them to visualise how bad it would have been if they carried on smoking and had to come home and tell their children, or the neighbour, the person, that they only had 2 weeks to live. How horrible would that be? Ramping up the fucking pain. Stack those out, fucking awful. But in the past tense, you're saying it. How awful it would have been if you had continued. And now just let that image fade away. Notice how good it feels to know that you made the intelligent, correct decision to stop. And that by remaining the confident, happy, healthy, relaxed non-smoker that you have now become and continue to be from this moment forward. That image in your mind, in reality, is one of being here for many years with your loved ones, seeing them grow up, seeing their children. You're into the pleasure. That's back to pain and pleasure. But it's nice when you can anchor it, as they call it in NLP, to somebody they've already got that very strong emotional motivation, desire and connection to. 12, are you on any medication? Not are you on any medication for this problem. Firstly, are you on any medication? If they say yeah, find out what it is, write it down. Then say, is any of that for this problem? Specifically. Well, that is a meta-model question on that occasion. And you have a copy of HYPNOS, which you can get from WHS, and you can then look up if you want and see what the potential side effects are. Because they may say that they've got all of these issues, and then you treat them and they go, it's great, but I'm still feeling X, Y and Z. The main thing's resolved, but I'm feeling X, Y and Z. And that's because if you're a responsible therapist, you've told them that obviously before they cease taking medication, they consult with their medical GP. Both for legal and ethical reasons. And it may be a few days before they get back to the medical GP and say they've noticed such an improvement that the doctor says, oh, well, on that basis, we'll knock you off them now, then. Now, if you can reassure them, because PIM says in there, well, it's actually, you know, it is a side effect of taking that drug, those feelings. It's not actually anything to do with what the original problem was that you used to have. It just stops them, like, reversing the good work you've done before they get to the doctors, and the doctor says, yeah, you can get off them now. It's thinking ahead, stopping yourself getting sued, basically. Should be honest. 13, who is your doctor? You want the name. It doesn't matter if they don't know the address off the top of their head, you'll soon get it off the internet, the local phone book. Because after they've come for treatment, and by signing this form, they've agreed that you can contact their doctor. You're going to send a letter to their doctor saying, thank you very much, you know, I'm sorry to trouble you, just thought I'd like you to know that one of your patients, Mary Sloppy Cabbage, whatever, was here, you know, in my office yesterday. She presented with X, Y, Z problem. We've successfully resolved this for her. I'm sure you'll be very happy with her, you know, improvement. If it's something she was taking medication for, then you can point out, I felt the need to, you know, notify you of this because she'll no doubt be coming to see you to ask if she can end the medication, because I've advised her to come to you. That's again covering yourself legally. But secondly, it makes the doctor aware that you've treated this person. And he will mention it to that patient, because she's going to end up going back anyway to say, can I end the medication? And or she'll end up there eventually at some point for something else. And he'll mention it, because these days they all put things on the computer, make notes. It comes up, oh, since you were in labs, what's this? Apparently you went to stop smoking, is that true? Oh yeah. And then the doctor, out of curiosity, will want to know how well it worked. Now, it may or may not be that she started again, but we're working a numbers game here. If you do this with every client, sooner or later, the number of successes will be such that it outweighs the rest. And in a local area, there may only be 4 or 5 doctors covering a certain area. So the chances are you'll end up getting clients who've got the same doctor. Anyway, just naturally. So he'll end up getting quite a few letters every month off you. And after a while, he's going to get, or he or she, is going to get pissed off with this and ring you up in a nice way to say, look, thanks, I understand what you're doing, but if you could, like, perhaps just email me instead, or don't send me any more of this fucking stalking mail, or whatever their terminology is. Or they might just ring up and say, bloody hell, what else do you do? But even if they ring up to say, please stop sending stuff, you've got an in then, you've got them on the phone, you've got past the gatekeeper. Say, well, you know from your own patients that this is very successful. What I do is a bit different than what those backstreet home study course hypnotherapists do. This is proper clinical, complete mind therapy. This is, you know, this is serious. And this will ultimately lead to you getting work from doctors. Just a little marketing tip thrown in there, but that's why it's on the questionnaire. 14, is there a history of this problem in the family? It sounds very caring, but you know, if there is, there could be a genetic cause other than just something that we can deal with. Admittedly, 90% of all reported illnesses are psychosomatic in origin or original cause. They can develop into genetic things. And highly likely the other 10% that's not reported, they're probably all fucking psychosomatic, but there are some things that are genetic, passed on. And there's not a right lot you can do with that. Yeah, control pain for somebody if it's a pain thing, but you're not. Well, it's not your job to be a Jesus Christ anyway, so fucking, you know, that could give you a big clue, in which case you just gave the session to make them feel good and kind of put the future pacing in that it might be an idea to go to the doctors and take the money off them, obviously. 15, have you tried any other treatments before for this? To rectify this, to resolve this? This is important because they might turn around and say, oh, yeah, well, I tried this other hypnotherapist. In which case, then, you want to know what approach did they use? Because the last thing you want to do is use the same approach. Because there's already a negative suggestion built in with that approach. You do something different, even if it's something you've just made up on the spur of the moment, and you go, oh, no, don't worry, we do this different. This is far more powerful than that. It's so that you overcome negatives before they become an issue. Yeah, any questions before we begin? That's where you'll get the classic, you're not going to have me run around like a chicken, are you? Yeah, if you want to, but you're only paying for an hour of my time, so it's up to you. Shall we sort you out now and get the problem dealt with? And finally, of course, get them to sign it, which waives their legal rights. The wording's in the book so that you don't need insurance because they waive all the bloody legal rights, moral rights, ethical rights, fucking birth rights, any rights. It covers you. And also it does give you then that information to feed into your actual complete mind therapy session. That's neither here nor there. We did know easy therapy earlier.
Excuse me? I think it's number 10, where you ask the patients, you tell, or the clients, you tell what is the bad thing they remember, something, number 10.
What was the worst and most painful event in your life? Yes, number 10.
I thought earlier on you said we don't want to know that. You don't.
Right, when I did that here, in front of a group full of people, I did say, I don't want to know, keep it inside your mind. And you can do it that way as well, content-free, the way I did earlier, the way you saw. But the only reason I did it that way is because I don't think it's really appropriate for people to have to be talking about those things in front of a group of people.
Well, I didn't mean, I thought you also mentioned that earlier, that even though when you do a one-to-one session, if people have some sort of trauma of some kind.
Yeah, if they have a trauma or a major emotional issue, fine, and you've got a sense, which you will have by the body language and then yeah, do it content-free, say to them, you don't need to verbally tell me, in which case, when you get to that question, skip it. Or just write content-free, agreed with patient, before they sign it. But in an ideal world, when it's appropriate, and not going to be too OTT for the client, actually getting this information and then using it against them may or may not, that's debatable, but I believe in stacking the odds in your favour, may or may not help it be even more likely to be successful. It's probably, I don't think it's any big deal if you do leave it out and make it content free. But where possible, I like the lazy man's approach. Stack everything in the, realm of best chance of success, and then it's up to them which bits actually work for them, which they take on board, which they choose in a way that's right for them to actually use. Does that make sense? Ish.
I'm still in doubt then, whether I should, like you said earlier on, you don't need to know if Mary was raped when...
No, you don't.
But if you ask that question to Mary, which is the worst...
If somebody comes to stop smoking, alright, and you ask them the question, what's the worst thing that's happened to you? The chances of them sitting there and they come to stop smoking or lose weight and turning around and going, well, Uncle Bertie shagged me over the birthday cake, are next to nil. And if they do, they're either A, going to break down and cry, which is going to be incredibly therapeutic for them anyway, offloading it to somebody they perceive as a trained, clinical professional, or they're going to say it in such a manner like, laughing, like they've got over it, they've learned to handle it, it was the worst thing that happened, but they've got over it, in which case you just quickly go off course and say, no, I prefer something that was more, if you were to think about it now, it'd upset you still. And I'm using all these NLP terms, it's all your fault for being, you reframe it onto that, because obviously something that's bad you don't generally openly give out. You would know, you would have a rough idea when the client rung and booked whether it was appropriate to do it content-free or ask that question, because smoking, where it was, doing it that approach, Uncle Bertie's probably not involved. Could be a underlying cause that caused them to lead that life path that led them to have that problem, admittedly, yes, and that's what psychoanalysis is about. But I think we're agreed that when the majority of the time, and I do say just the majority of the time, can give the person the change in their life they need to start to get themselves together and be happy without having to go back and flipping uncover all the shit from the past, then that's preferable to pulling them through the coals again, so to speak. No easy therapy, we did that earlier. Psychotherapy, yeah, in one easy lesson, psychotherapy, stroke counselling, or we did kind of mention that yesterday. The best thing I ever read on it, well, the best comment that ever summed it up, is what Chad Vera, who founded the Samaritans, said, which was, don't just do something, sit and listen. In other words, sometimes you don't need to do fuck all, you don't need to have any knowledge, skills, experience or expertise other than remembering you've got 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them in those proportions, and looking like you're interested in what they're saying and occasionally repeating a little bit back of what they've just said to them so that they know that you're taking an interest. And there are people who will quite happily pay money for that week in, week out. I don't think it's particularly necessary when you put some people in, oh, I'm not into that hypno thing, can we talk about it first? Especially if it's an emotionally repressed memory or something, then just talk. There's no skill involved, it's talking to them. Right, oh fucking hell, that's the only thing I missed out from the so-called NLP stuff. The fast phobia cure, which I don't use incidentally. I've done in the past to see whether it works or not. But I just literally do the CMT session as we did before and as we explained and broke it up. But the fast phobia cure is all about disassociation. So it's the see yourself in a cinema, watching it on a screen, but it's behind a glass, and come floating out of your body, move forward. It's bollocks. Read a book, if you want to read a book, and learn so-called NLP techniques, albeit that you won't learn practically anything that we haven't covered this weekend. The best one is Introduction to, sorry, my memory escapes me, but I can soon tell you. Introduction to NLP. Here we go, Introducing NLP by Joseph O'Connor and John Seymour. And NLP in 21 Days by Harry Adler, A-L-D-E-R. You'll get both of them on Amazon for less than 20 quid for the pair. That, with what you've learnt this weekend, yesterday and today, save you $2.5 grand and your 9 days of your time. You'll read those books in far less than 9 days at a pace that's right for you. Yes. We covered meridians, so-called, yesterday. We're going to get to there in a minute, possibly. Regression, right. There are, well, there's very little to know about regression, but yes, thank you for a reminder, because that was your job yesterday, yes. Regression, ultimately, step one, get them into trance, which I do exactly the same as the complete mind therapy session, up to the point where they rub the name off the blackboard. So they're now deep, 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 deep. At this point, right, there's two forms of regression. There's a regression in psychoanalytical terms that go back to an age in your lifetime when something traumatic happens so that we can get you crying, and then you'll offload it at the moment of catharsis, come to a realisation as the adult that we spoke about yesterday, and then apparently, you know, when you find the cause of the problem, eliminate it, the symptoms disappear. I don't think it's necessary. That's long-term therapy. Even though these days it can be done in between 4 to 6 sessions, it's still long-term compared to one session. Then there's past life regression, which we did touch on briefly yesterday. Is it cell memory, genetic cell memory? Is it a genuine past life? Is it stuff that we've unconsciously picked up off TV, films, books? Is it, you know, there's many explanations for it, but if people actually want to pay you money, and your morals and ethics are such that if they want to pay you money, what's it matter what's going on, then you get them under in exactly the same way as we went through for the CMT session. And then after they've wiped the name off the blackboard and the dreaming away in the mind, from there, well, there's about 3 different techniques you can use. The one I prefer is to then tell them it's the dreaming in the mind. Sometime soon, and this is about leading them. Unfortunately, we're actually going to, slightly unethically, we're going to ask them questions which imply that there is an answer to be given. Which, we talked about false memory syndrome and the dangers of it, but ethically, how dangerous is it, the person waking up and genuinely believing that they had a past life and X, Y, Z happened? I'd say it's considerably less dangerous than a false memory that's supposed to have happened. Well, they're actually here looking like this and what have you. But that's where your own personal ethics come in. Personally, I take the money off them and ask them the questions, because the key is you're going to record this. Although some people, you had a great idea. It was you, James, wasn't it? Yeah. Which with James, is it okay to mention that? I had an idea that you don't, James said that he doesn't record past life regressions because possibly some people who heard the tape afterwards, which the client's going to want to hear so that they know what went on in their past life, might think it's so airy-fairy, arty-farty, or do a hatchet job media-wise, which is, yes, is a possibility if you're doing those kind of things. So if I remember rightly, he said you anchor everything that goes on in the session, you give them a crystal, did you say? Yeah, to take away with them tangibly. Put it in their hand and anchor the idea that over the coming week, everything that happened in that past life, they will remember more of it when they've got hold of the crystal. That a rough...
Yeah, do a wee ritual.
Right, so you get them doing a wee ritual so it seems important.
So it's at night you do this, and of course the memory keeps coming on and on.
So it's like a pre-appointed time at night, so it's a definite ritual and the intention's there. And nice one. So that then they are starting to remember things when they have left you, which they will talk to people about and say, yes, I'm Joan of Arc, or whatever the hell it is they imagine their past life was. But there is no recorded evidence of them ever saying that in your consulting room. And by this point, they'll have elaborated on things far more, I guess, is your experience. I don't do a right lot of past life regression, so that's why I'm...
You have to elaborate more and more.
And so the story gets better and better, and then when they're telling other people, it seems like, this is amazing, all this came out when you went to see this person. So then that could lead to you getting other clients, because I think, bloody hell. Whereas if they'd have had a CD and not a right lot of being said, it could have the opposite effect of, well, you know, you paid all that to waffle that shit. So, there's two approaches. I mean, I actually recorded for them, or at least I did do. I think I may possibly model your idea, James.
Well, mate, I finished up in the newspapers with it.
Right. Nice one. So you got publicity out of it as well. Tremendous. I have been recording it when, on the rare occasions that I do past life regression. I think it is arty-farty new age bullshit. I'm not saying that I don't believe we've lived before and stuff like that, but, you know, if you believe in ageless wisdom teachings, which I have studied, then when you come into this lifetime, the whole point is to start with a blank slate, maybe not karmically, but blank state memory-wise, so that you can move forward and learn the lessons that you didn't learn last time. Not to cheat the system and go back and find out what those fucking things were. So if you believe in ageless wisdom teachings and reincarnation and stuff, then technically speaking, that person making the choice to be regressed is trying to fuck the system over. And sooner or later they'll pay the price for it. I think you're fine as the therapist, because at the end of the day they've just engaged your professional services. So ethically, spiritually, whatever level you're coming to it from, I think as the therapist you're fine. It's the client that's got potentially a problem. Whether it's just a wild imagination or a long-term karmic debt, that's up to other people to decide, not for us. But I did normally record them so they had something tangible to take in the hand. But there again, James' idea also solves that, because we've got the magic crystal that's going to help them remember even more memories, which isn't going to cost them anymore, because they're going to remember more memories every night. So the more I think about it, the more that is a bloody brilliant add-on idea, bud. But I was recording it.
What do? You count them down to the age of being in the womb?
Well, to start off with, the way I do it is once you get to the bottom, the name's rubbed off the blackboard. And then say, now, as you continue dreaming in your mind's eye, I'd like you to just take a few minutes, a couple of minutes maybe, to realise that in a few moments' time, and this is implanting an idea in the head, realise that in a few moments' time in the distance you'll see a library. And I want you to move towards that library. And when you get there, and I don't know if you'll be there in just a few seconds' time, or it may take a few seconds longer. A nice way of saying, fucking hurry up, I don't want to be here all day. But it is, you know. So I don't know if it'll be in a few seconds' time or not, but just, you know, indicate that you're at that library just by saying yes. Because people can't talk when they're in trance. And it's not much fucking good doing a past life regression if they don't talk back to you anyway, if you were recording it, because you've got nothing to... And you've certainly got nothing, even if you've just given them the crystal at the end, you've got nothing to tell them. So, and some people do just want to attention seek so much that they become what we call a sleeper, a somnambulist. And pretend, although they may not be doing it on a conscious level, to be unconscious, because they're so deeply in trance. Which, if that ever happens, you'll suggest to them that when you touch them with the tip of the pencil in a few months' time, it's the sharpish razor blade they've ever felt. That tends to fucking weigh them up. I've found. And failing that, prod them in the ribs. And I wish I was joking there. Sadly not. So anyway, they will end up saying that they're in the library. Once we're in the library, so you can see many, many, many books in your mind's eye in this library. Some have got hardback covers, some have got more recent, up-to-date ones with paperback covers. Some have got really nice gold embossed writing, some look like they're Victorian, some look like they're Viking, but in every fucking nationality you want. Some look like Indian books, some look like American books. Fucking give them loads of things in their head, ideas, so they can start conjuring something up. And in a way that feels right for you, in a few moments' time, I'd like you to go up to the bookshelf and you'll feel drawn to one of these books more than you are than the rest. And whichever book it is you're drawn to, I'd like you to take off the shelf, because that will be the book of memories. The book of memories of your past life, your previous lifetime, before you were here this time. And by now you're spotting all the embedded commands. Yes, there was something. So sooner or later they'll say they picked up a book. That's brilliant. What colour's the cover? Implying that the cover's got some kind of colour. What texture is it? Things that would logically apply to a book of any type. But it gets them used to replying to you with their eyes tightly closed at all times for this to be totally successful. And then you've got, what title is the book? Can you read it, or is it in a different language? You're starting to get bits of info. And it doesn't matter if they say it's in a different language, because they'll be able to tell you what it says, because that's a wonderful world of fantasy. Or is it perhaps the fact that they actually did live before, so that they've got, who knows. So you say, well, open that book and you'll find that there's an index page and it's got different ages. I want you to look at the end of the index. How old did you live to in your past lifetime? Don't matter what age they say, because all we're trying to do is get some interesting information. And when we hit on something that, shall we say, will probably make you want to piss yourself laughing when you sat there opposite them, that's the kind of stuff you want to be getting recorded, or at least getting them to say, so that when you remind them when they're out of trance that they said this, before you give them the crystal, in the case of not recording it, they'll go, actually, yeah, I do semi-remember saying that. But the more interesting it is, the more value for money they think you've had, and the more it'll set them off on the path, especially if you're anchoring them to something like a crystal, to elaborate on it even more. And if that makes them feel good and makes their ego feel good, then that in itself is therapeutic. Maybe not ethical, but therapeutic in some way that's right for them. So then you say, right, so you were such an age. Whatever they say, it doesn't matter, you work from that. What age would you like us to examine? Because, you've only booked an hour of my time, sort of thing. You tell them that bit up front. What age would you like to start examining? Pick one. Turn to that page number in the book. So you're leading them every step of the way. And then if you want, you could go to the extremes of saying, actually, this is a magic book. You could, if you put it on the floor, you can stand on top of it and you sink inside that picture. What do you see around you right now? What do you see around you right now? Is you fucking implying that they're going to see something? Is it sand, soil, gravel, or rock under your feet? And this is where, actually, this is the irony of it, is these are what would be called meta-model questions in NLP. It's just that we're using them in a slightly unethical way. Or ethical, depending on how you look at it, because fair exchange is no robbery, and if the people actually feel better afterwards and get something out of it, even if it's only an ego boost. And at the end of the day, if they were happy to pay you for that, what's the big deal? So yeah, the book one's a good thing, they can climb in. If you get fed up or the guide at the age of 1, find out what it was, they were murdered or something, or whatever. It's nice to be able to throw in a lawyer in there right now, and you can experience it. It's almost as though you're watching it on a film. Which in itself is an embedded command. It's almost as if you're making this fucking thing up. We both know that, don't worry, I'll play along with it because you paid me. And it's also suggesting that it's almost as if you're watching it on a film. So, if in that previous lifetime you perhaps had any negative experiences, then you won't experience those emotions in the same way right now. So if your head was cut off in France, your head's not going to suddenly fall off here. So you really guide them, and you can carry on with this, you could carry on for hours and hours, but if they died at the age of 1, it's not going to last long, so then you bring them out of the picture, put that book back on the shelf, and you'll be drawn to another one. Or if you don't like the idea of the books, you could get them at the bottom of the staircase to notice, instead of a bed, that in the distance they can see this inviting door. It's almost as though there's a white light coming through the side of the door frame, inviting them, drawing them, and they know it feels good as they get closer to that door, because they'll finally find out what happened in their previous lifetime. And when they're ready in a way that's right for them, they'll open the door and go through. And then obviously it's, where are you? What, is it sand, gravel? No. Is there anything under your feet? Is it sand, gravel, rock, or under your feet? Where are you? What do you see around you? How many people are with you? What are they wearing? It's pretty much common sense after that. To the point where you end the session, and if you were going to anchor them to a crystal, I guess this is a good time to put in a post-hypnotic command here, that you know when this session ends and I wake you up, I'm going to give you this lovely, powerful, energized crystal. And the amazing thing is that, you know, especially if you get it around, well, every time you say, you know, between such an hour and such an hour at night, when all the planets are in alignment with each other, whatever fucking psychobabble you want to have, then this will be so energized that you'll find that all you need to do is hold on to it, close your eyes, and say to yourself 3 times, take me back to my past life, take me back to my past life. And you'll start, all these memories will start flooding out. But this will only last for about half an hour, or if you want it to last for less, you can set the alarm clock and it'll instantly bring you out, so you can go to that meeting or appointment or see to the kids without it causing you any problems or discomfort in any way, shape or form. And then you wake them up in much the same way as we've talked about all weekend. Yeah, and then you'd have done a past life regression session. So yeah, it could be the bookshelf, getting the memories, it could be a photo album. Some people prefer the idea of photo albums rather than books with words in, because that automatically implies there's an image and there will be stuff in that image. So sometimes that makes it easier to get them to start remembering or start fantasizing. That part I'll leave for you guys and girls to decide, because that is a 9-day debate. And we're not going there. So, right, where are we? Half an hour before the break. Any questions at this point on absolutely anything? Well, not quantum physics, although I have studied it, but I mean anything related to what we're here for.
When you're writing off to the GP with the information,
Yeah.
I think it's important to put on your envelope private and confidential patient information, otherwise the people on the desk will be at it. Prevent it going through.
Right,
Yeah.
good point. I've got to be honest, I've never done that, but yeah, private and confidential patient information for personal attention of doctor.
Sure, yeah. I've had a few doctors
Right.
with that, yeah.
And you find that means more of them tend to get through to the doctors than... Thank you for adding that. Right, yeah. No, good point. On the count of 3, you'll find that you can actually speak. 1, 2, 3. Yes,
If you're
sir.
doing a group phobia
Greek?
session,
Group,
group
yes.
phobia session, for example, as a zoo,
Yeah.
how can you ensure that when they bring the tarantula out, that they're not going, one or more are not going to have the screaming abdabs?
You know the honest answer to that? You can't. But the law of averages, especially combined with group psychology, says, as we've looked at this weekend, basically it could happen. Okay. I don't wish to scare you though, but it could happen. In which case, it's thinking on your feet, being flexible. Oh, well, no, you need to tap more. Get the fucking tapping. No, it's gone down a number. Bring it a bit closer. Go on, tap again, tap again, tap again. Bring it a bit closer. And do it bit by bit step. But the chances are with a group session for something like that, the number one, people who pay to go on one and take the effort to show up are going to be in such a state of expectancy anyway by the time they get there. The chances of that happening are fucking next to nil. Especially because of the group psychology, they don't want to be the odd one out in the group. if you're scared and it was something like that with a spider you were going to confront, have one stooge there. One stooge, the rest genuine punters. So the one stooge is guaranteed to hold the spider first off and look dead calm and relaxed. Because then the sheep effect will come into play, and not wanting to look like the thick idiot with no powers of intelligence, imagination and concentration. Because just so long as you use your powers of mind effectively, everything we do here today together will be 1,000,000% successful for you. So then when your stooge goes, oh, I'm amazed. And if they could cry on cue so much the better, and you go, what's up? I thought you were all right now. I am. It's just, I never thought that would be possible. Give me another, let me hold on to it again. No, because that's a little bit of play acting. Oh, but the thing is, that's a strong visual suggestion to the rest of the group, which is contagious. And if they can cry on cue, so much the better, because then emotion's involved. So the rest of them see then it's okay to cry. So if they had tears of fear building up, they can release them under the guise of tears of joy. I know this sounds very cynical, but this is, well, it's certainly how I've earned my money for the past 16 years, doing it this way. So perhaps I got it all entirely wrong. But I did tell you one day when everything I'm telling you is bullshit anyway, if you want it to be. But there again, it's also the way, the path, the light. If you want it to be. It's whatever you want it to be, whatever you turn it into. But yeah, no, stooge, probably in that environment would be a very useful acquisition.
Can I
Yes,
just
sir.
make a point there?
Of course you can.
None of the zoos will allow you to touch a tarantula.
Well, they do at London Zoo.
Oh no.
Still doing the Friendly Spider programme, aren't they? Have they stopped it?
They won't allow you to touch a live spider anymore because of health and safety problems. Because the spiders on the legs, it's not the bite, but they throw the fur like vines, and they've got little hooks on. And one got one in their eye, and it caused really nasty problems.
Right.
So now the zoos don't do that anymore, so all you'll get is the skin.
Right, we should
When they
step
shed
one.
the skin, but you've got to be aware, you know, because if you say to people they're going to have a live spider, then they're going to be very disappointed because they ain't going to get one.
Pet shops then. Privately owned pet shop. Give them a backhander so you can go in and take your clients in.
But be very wary, because if you do throw the spines in your eyes, you do.
Well, yeah, good point. But that's nothing to do with the hypnosis, NLP, mind coaching, life coaching, whatever. It's to do with those bastard spiders. Yeah, no, thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, no, because when we did this with the radio with the zoo, that was one of the things, so we had this before we went, so we do, you know.
Right. Or goggles. A protective face mask. A nuclear war bunker.
It's just the health and safety thing. Now it's come in, and because they were, you know, it's like they're trying to be in suit, so it's a thing that's just, it's only just happened, so.
Right, well that's news to me. I didn't know about that. Thanks
I
for
didn't
that.
until 3 weeks ago.
Right. Oh, is that recently?
Yeah, it's
Right.
yeah, it's 3 weeks ago since we did it, yeah.
Stick to snakes then, they'll let you hold them.
Yeah, they're all right,
Snakes are fine.
They can have stick insects, you'll be alright with them, they'll let you hold them.
Well, it's... Or get a damn good real... You can get some very realistic flipping fake ones on the internet.
Oh no, the
you know.
actual skin that they'll allow you is an actual skin, because it's shaped skin.
Right. Does it...
And that is with everything, you know, it's complete, so they'll let you put that on dry.
What's it the same?
It's not the same, however, if at the start of the session you would, which would ramp up the pain, because near the beginning, if it was a group session, now I know you're all shit scared, excuse the language, and it's no wonder, because if one of those horrible things just crawled in right now all over you, it'd be fucking terrible, wouldn't it? And you know, ramp it up at the beginning, so that it looks like a much bigger difference when they get the flight response, the relief later, but it seems much bigger than it really was. And then you could bring out a picture of one and, you know, blimey, I could almost not look at it myself. It's a good job I've had this therapy, I'm alright now. But look, there's a little blighter, you know, flipping scare the shit out. Then it probably would be impressive enough at the end to just put the skin on their hand, because that's dramatically, in comparison to the beginning.
You know, it looks absolutely identical.
Just don't
It
move
just
around.
blue. Yeah.
Well, magicweed.co.uk, magician supply shop, we sell invisible thread. Yeah, somebody just occasionally, you know, just wiggling it outside a bit. There's always a way around things. If you're flexible, devious, and prepared to do things, think out the box slightly and do things that perhaps may be frowned on by others, but at the end of the day will ultimately help your clients. Any more questions? This is really scary. This is some kind of conspiracy.
Are there any other marketing suggestions? Because I came 3 weeks ago, but any other recent ones?
For you, Sue, at the minute, probably not. For those that weren't at the seminar, yeah, by the secrets of hypnotic success, seminar DVD set. No, because to be honest, what we covered on that particular event is in much the same way as, and you'll see in the book the people who've got it, in much the same way as I've only ever really used these techniques that we've covered, but in different environments, different circumstances, whether it's one person, a group or whatever, whether it's therapy stage or alleged corporate. I've only really used the same techniques in different ways for marketing, just in different arenas. Daft newspaper stories, albeit that some are extreme for a certain market and others are quirky for the respectable hypnotherapist type markets, and all publicity, exposure. Advertising, marketing, paying for adverts, ultimately is a bad idea. When you can get yourself on television, on the radio, in the newspapers, in the magazines, when you can get people becoming unpaid salespeople for you. You know, every client that comes to you, pay them 250 quid, offer them 50 quid a time for every other client they send your way. Money's a great incentive to a lot of people. They'll be far more likely to go around talking about you. So, not even with the marketing, I've only ever really used the basic principles of marketing. It's going back to basics. You only need to buy literally a basic book on marketing a product for like less than a tenner from Amazon. Or if you want it specifically aimed at life coaching, mind fucking NLPing type things with actual examples, then Secrets of Hypnotic Success is the product. But ultimately that is all based on what I learned from conventional marketing books, conventional marketing arena. And then just put a spin on it because you're just thinking of yourselves in terms of being a product. A lot of people have a block with that. You are the product. Yeah, I know when it comes to it, what you're selling them is that life change, or that hour of time so they can waffle on with Joan of Arc or whatever. But you are the product. You're the one who makes this happen. You are the catalyst. You are the miracle worker, if you like. So if you get books on marketing products rather than marketing a business in the general terms, and you consider yourself the product, which some people have a problem sometimes getting their head around, because it's like, I'm not a product, I'm a human being, I'm not a number, I'm a man. You're a fucking product if you want to make money. And use what the kind of techniques they teach you that you'd use if you were selling a Mars bar, albeit without the massive cost of tele-advertising, because you're going to come up with some kind of publicity stunt. Then you will get far more work and far more clients. And the irony of it is, it also becomes far easier to treat the people if they have a vague recollection of you having been in that newspaper or on that television programme. And you can make sure they have a very good recollection, because when they walk in your office, the fucking article's been blown up as wallpaper all over the place. That's going to the extreme a bit, but you know what I mean. Or your literature that you perhaps send them, if you don't manage to convert them on the phone straight off, as one or two press cuttings within there. Which, with the joy of, not word processing, that's typing. Home publishing packaging. Packages, brain's starting to slow down now. If you were so inclined to do one or two slightly, not illegal, no, we're not talking fraud, But if you were to be inclined to get hold of a newspaper from a certain area and look at the way it was laid out, with their own publishing package, you can type up your own wonderful article about this miracle you pulled off and get a digital... Come in?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, no? You're right, come in, yeah. Getting a message from the other side. I'm fucking funny, but Derek Akara's invaded. Right, oh dear. Yeah, you could actually write your own article, stage your own photograph in the software package, and you print it out then, but then once you've printed it out, you go and photocopy it and darken it a bit, so it looks like a bit of a fucked up photocopy, because then it looks like you photocopied it off a genuine newspaper article. And oh, how inconvenient, the person who teared it out for you ripped the corner off where it said what newspaper it was. Do heck. Some people might think, if they saw that in your advertising literature, that it had been in an actual newspaper. And you know, lots of newspapers have the exact same name, like in Rochdale we have an Express newspaper. There's a national newspaper called the Express. There's different papers called the Express around England. There's the Lancashire Times, but within the pages of it they call themselves the Times. There's a national paper called the Times. So it would be possible to write it in such a way that's making reference to the Times reporter, and people reading it would perhaps, possibly, incorrectly assume that you had a certain prestige and status that may not necessarily at that moment in time be correct. But if it gets you more bums on seats for group sessions or more one-to-one clients, ultimately more money in your pocket, or if you want to take the ethical approach, more of an opportunity to help a larger number of people, then it's a means to an end. And the irony of it is it will become self-fulfilling, because you get more clients and stuff, you will get approached by other publications, and then it will become genuine. If that made any sense at all, which I think it did, certainly to one or two people. So, come on, any more questions? No? Right, no, that's cool, if we haven't. Right. No, just a minute, what? Stage stuff, that's... Right, we'll cover these 8 questions and the 8 missing links for stage hypnosis, I suppose, because we covered therapy in far bigger depth than I normally do, but that's going to help the need to expose NLP this weekend. Right, stage hypno-wise, at the end of the day, we covered the fact that it's still the same principles: getting attention, taking control. The same group psychology comes into play. There's a potential number of items that could happen that could fuck things up for you. So if you've got an idea what to do in case that happened, if ever you chose to do that, then at least you know. First one is, what if no one volunteers at your stage hypnosis show? That's not going to happen at a group session, because you can all stay sat in the chairs and all of you close your eyes and we're going to do the treatment. And then you go through your CMT script. Because they're there and they're paid a sizable amount of money to be there. On a one-to-one, they're obviously, you know, with just a tiny bit of coercion going to do what you said, because, let's face it, that's what they're there for. The stage show, it might be they've gone because they want to be in the audience and watch. They don't want to make a tit of themselves. So it is feasibly possible that you walk off stage, good evening, welcome to, and the opening talk for a hypno show is the most important bit, the psychology. Now that you have learnt all the NLP, notice the psychology in the opening talk that I normally use, which is in the book. It will be something like, obviously your voice over, now please welcome world's #1, everyone's world's #1 hypnotist, or Europe's top hypnotist. Purely and simply because it would be a bit naff really if it said, please welcome ranked 87th in the world. He's getting better with every show. You know, it's not the right psychological connotation, is it? So everyone's the world's #1 or international or Europe's on the coming next. Good evening and welcome to what's going to be, for most of you here this evening, I'm sure, truly interesting, informative and entertaining hour or so. Now, the reason I say most of you is because obviously many of you in this room will be hypnotised. And for those of you who are hypnotised, it will be a truly relaxing, enjoyable, a somewhat slightly unusual experience. Now, although you'll hear me say the word, it doesn't feel right without my suit on this, by the way. That's why my face is twitching. I should have my suit on. It's not feeling right. Although you'll hear me say the word sleep rather a lot tonight, none of you will actually ever be asleep. Or at least I hope you won't, because if you're hypnotised, you'll be fully aware of everything that's going on around you at all times. It's just you'll have this overwhelming desire to do almost everything and anything I say. Now, the reason I say almost anything I say is because it is impossible. That's true. It is impossible to make anyone say or do anything that would totally contradict the morals or the values. So in a few moments' time, when I ask for volunteers to fill these chairs, I'm ideally looking for about a dozen volunteers with no morals and with no values, and then I'm sure we can have a great show. Joking aside, just because there's only 12 chairs on stage does not mean that I only want 12 volunteers. The more volunteers, the longer and better the show will be for each and every one of you. Actually, in an ideal world, I'd like to hypnotise you all, go to the bar, get pissed, come back in an hour, wake you up, tell you you'd enjoyed a wonderful show. Unfortunately, that's not possible and it's not fair. So, I will be looking for volunteers. Now, the kinds of people I'm looking for, there's a few types of people I'm not allowed to hypnotise, or more to the point, I won't hypnotise. The first type is the drunk people. Have we got any drunks in tonight? And you are allowed to respond, even though it's on. Have we got any drunks in tonight? And the reason for that I won't hypnotise them is because drunk people already think they're hypnotised. I'm sure we won't have any problems there. Secondly, I won't hypnotise idiots. Have we got any idiots in tonight? You always get one prick in a bunch of roses, don't you? Tremendous. And thirdly, I won't hypnotise anyone with a serious medical complaint. By that I mean suffering from, heart problems, asthmatic, clinically depressed, or pregnant. It's nothing to do with hypnosis. Hypnosis is completely safe. I just don't think it's really appropriate for a pregnant lady to be jumping around and potentially fall over on stage, because we will be having you do some wild and wacky things tonight. And if you're schizophrenic, don't volunteer. Fuck off to one of Paul McKenna's shows instead. So I think that just about covers everything that I need to tell you except for this, that to be hypnotised is just a very relaxing, enjoyable, if somewhat slightly unusual experience. In fact, kind of like having a joint of Moroccan black. Alright, some people know that's good, you'll make good subjects. But you don't get the munchies afterwards. There is a plus side with hypnosis, no side effects. Tremendous. Yeah, being hypnotised, all you need really are good powers of intelligence, imagination and concentration. So this evening, ladies and gentlemen, it's wonderful having been here, but I'm going to go home early. No, I'm joking. I'm sure there's some people out there who could be the stars of this evening's show. And please remember, the audience, when you volunteer, will not be laughing at you. They'll be laughing with you, because without wonderful volunteers with good powers of intelligence, imagination and concentration to come up here on stage in a few moments' time, without you wonderful people who've got a good sense of humour, who are up for a laugh, with the idea of letting yourselves go and giving it a try, without you to volunteer and come and fill these chairs, then there would be no show here this evening. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, as this piece of music begins, stand up! Fucking hell, my voice is going in. Not stand. Stand up. Sit that down. Stand up. Stand up and walk this way towards the stage right now. And then on comes the fast music. Come on, come on, come on. Give them a round of applause. It's coming in. And you're coercing them, and hopefully at that point you get volunteers. If you don't, all you can do is try and coerce them, i.e., come on. Who's bravest, the blokes or the women? Once you've got one, then you can use that against the rest of the audience, the sheep effect.
At what point during there do you actually do just suggested belief test?
Personally, the way I do it, I don't. Volunteers up here. then suggestibility test on everyone. But the emphasis is on the people here.
Okay.
Now, but that's just a matter of personal choice. Some people are, and I know that, well, until the Hypnotism Act was changed in 1996 and technically prohibited it, although those of you with the book who made that intelligent choice to purchase right now realise that in there it's got all of the legal loopholes in, so that you can perform anytime, any place, anywhere and do anything. Paul McKenna, because he's doing the big theatres in England, or at least he was, you know, he's gone more into the therapy now, he originally used to go on stage and say, everyone in the, he'd do that pattern, but then he'd go, before I ask for volunteers, Lord, to come up stage, I need each and every one of you in the building to put down your handbags, your purses, your drinks, and if the women could do the same, that would be a great start. And then you get them to put the hands out in front of them, interlock your fingers, the fingers of the left hand against the back of the right hand, and do the locked hands thing that we did the other morning. But the one that doesn't always work. Because in a theatre with a few thousand people, one volunteer is worth 100 press men. So you may as well use the one, because the numbers are on your side, that only works if the, I was going to say suggestible, I prefer the word gullible. Or more to the point, they've already come with the idea of they want to make a tit of themselves, quite frankly. And then he would ask for those to come up. So if your hands on the count of 10, hands locked, glued, welded, cemented together, hands in the air up above you right now, and please don't leave your hands as they are. Because if you leave your hands as they are, Betty commands, you're spotting them again now. If you leave your hands as they are, they'll turn blue after 3 weeks and drop off. So please, you must come this way right now towards the stage, and then everyone's coming up. And then you line them up and, you know, hands against your chest, don't bother unlocking them. Head back, eyes closed, 3, 2, 1. But that's had to be changed for those that don't choose to use the legal loopholes, because it now says you're not allowed to coerce people psychologically to volunteer for the show. Which in itself is a farce, because however you look at it, you coerce people psychologically to volunteer for the show. But they narrowed it down by meaning the use of so-called suggestibility tests.
Could you get around that by doing the suggestibility test and then saying those of you that have got the hands locked together and do want to come on stage, please do come up?
Well, you could try it. What I'm getting at is the fine definition wording of the 1952 Hypnotism Act, updated in 1953, updated in 1986, and then 1995 government review is now so specific that technically you're not supposed to do that. And if you did that, you'd be in breach of the licence, the permission you got of the local authority for the show to take place, which incidentally you need for a stage hypnosis show. And technically speaking, you need for a group hypnotherapy session, which most hypnotherapy courses A, don't know, and B, don't tell you. And let me tell you now, in England, 99% of licensing authorities will not grant you a licence or permission under the 1952 Hypnotism Act, whether it's for a stage show, a group hypnotherapy session, or a training seminar like this, which technically should have been licensed under the 1952 Hypnotism Act. Because the 1952 Hypnotism Act was worded so fucking badly, and the element in question has never been altered since, unfortunately, that it prohibits the demonstration and or performance of, and then it goes on blah 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 blah, bullshit waffle. But then we've got a nice long list of words, anything that's intended to, or looks like, or could be, that's almost what they're saying, so it's very suggestion, manipulation. And these words, when you look at the dictionary definition of them, which is what all law is about, dictionary definition, once an Act of Parliament is in force, you cannot overrule that Act of Parliament unless they do. You know, you can't change the nature of that Act unless you get an Act of President in British law, which hasn't happened yet. The actual wording of it, if you look at it, it's very interesting, because technically speaking, churches should be licensed under the 1952 Hypnotism Act, because it's intended to influence and change people's beliefs. Political meetings should be licensed under the 1952 Hypnotism Act, and if you want to get really technical and have a fucking nasty argument with some snotty-nosed counsellor who tries causing you problems but doesn't know one thing about the law, technically speaking, shagging your wife should be licensed under the 1952 Hypnotism Act, because at the moment of orgasm you automatically become more suggestible, which is a provable fact, which therefore means it should be licensed under the 1952 Hypnotism Act because of the way the Act was badly worded. So unfortunately, like everything else, it's a big crock of bullshit.
So how do you get around that?
Right. There are some major loopholes, and they are as follows. But right, remind me loopholes in a minute. When I look at you, say loopholes. But just before that, what if no volunteers? Short, sweet answer. You try and coerce them up. Come on, let's have a man first. If you get a man, then it's, come on girls, you are chicken. I thought you were the stronger sex. You're always telling us men. So you play them off against the other. You manipulate the crowd like we talked about yesterday. If nobody comes up then, you're fucked. No, you're going home early. But on your contract for the show, it will have said that you're being paid an appearance fee, not a performance fee. So as long as you show up and attempt to do a show, they still have to pay you, whether or not the show works. And just to put your mind at rest for anyone who does attempt to do stage hypnosis at any point, there is nobody on this planet, and if they say different, they're bullshitting. I don't care if they're Ken Webster, Peter Powers, Jonathan Royle, Paul McKenna, Andrew Newton, or any of the stage hypnotists from around the world. All of us, at some point, have died on our arse, which is the showbiz term for the show not fucking going to plan. All of us. I've seen Andrew Newton at Manchester Apollo refund the ticket money because nobody went under. And this is when he was on Sky TV all the time. Even with the best environment, the best pre-planned manipulation, advertising and ploys, it can still go wrong. And guess what? You can't do fuck all about it because it's out of your hands. It's either going to work or it isn't. And that's the same with therapy. If you've stacked everything in your favour, which is my intention with complete mind therapy, then it's either going to work or it isn't. So don't feel bad when you get the odd client it doesn't work for. It could be something as simple as they don't like what you look like because you remind them of somebody from the past they didn't like. It might be that the same thing done by a different therapist, it'd work for them. Don't take it personally. If nobody goes under, you're fucked. Well, actually, you're not completely fucked, because if you get me bulk, we do HYPNO-TRICKS in there, which is Derren Brown stuff, basically. You know, it looks like hypnosis, but I tell you now, the amount of NLP that Derren Brown actually uses is about, well, it's like a grain of sand amongst a world of magical trickery. If you go on magicweek.co.uk, there's one book I'd recommend you read called 13 Steps to Mentalism by Tony Corinda. Now, even if you never have any intentions of performing, okay, which I know majority of you don't, and even if you don't have any intentions of doing group sessions, if you only ever want to do one-to-one sessions, fine. But I'd still recommend you read 13 Steps to Mentalism by Tony Corinda, which you can get from any of the magic shops on magicweek.co.uk. It's about 24 quid, I think. It's about the same thickness as my book, but it just covers mind reading, how to contact the dead, how to it's everything Derren Brown's ever done on television is explained in that book. Now, it's useful to know that, if for no other reason, and A, you know, but B, if you get asked in a pub or out and about, you know, oh, you say, oh, that's what you do, is it? Oh, well, could you stop me smoking? Yeah. Oh, you said that Derren Brown on telly, he does that, ooh, climbs inside the mind, he did this the other day. If you could turn around and do the same fucking thing, or something similar enough that it look, you know, they think, oh, look, you know, you're instantly got Derren Brown's prestige. How much easier do you think it's going to be to take a nice amount of money off them to sort their problems out? A hell of a lot easier. And aside from that, it makes you the life and soul of the party, and you tend to get invited here, there and everywhere, and knowing the odd trick you can do with a piece of paper and a pen and apparently read somebody's mind. Because remember, at the end of the day, the Derren Brown stuff, they do get them to write stuff down on the paper, which then gets burnt and destroyed apparently. But then they start filming and they go, so, have you got a name in your mind? Of course they have, because before they started filming, they said, get a name in your mind, write it down, destroy it so I can't know what it is. Then the cameras start rolling. It's what goes on before the cameras start rolling that's the real key to how Derren Brown does 99% of what he does. And also the fact that Objective Productions are a regular customer of Prospect House Publishing. That's actually true. The majority of the DVD sets. Rajan and his evil hypnotist that was on Channel 4, he did a blowtorch stunt. Where he got the guy stood there with his top off. Sorry, mate. And he took a blowtorch and apparently burnt all the hairs off his body and all this. It's quite simple. You get the blowtorch doctored, you get the holes at the end covered over with metal that are welded on, so it can only ever burn a yellow flame. So it's just like taking a lighter and running it. You don't keep it still, it's about moving it steady. But yeah, it burns the hairs off their arm, but you then quickly follow it up with a damp cloth so it puts the fire out before it burns the skin, obviously. It doesn't hurt, it's what fire eaters have been doing for years. But because visually, psychologically, it's a blowtorch, it looks fucking dangerous. But if nobody ever twigs that it's only a yellow flame, it's the blue flame that, you know, would burn a hole in your arm in a split second. The yellow flame's pretty safe, moved at a good speed. But on my DVDs, I say they should stand with their feet together, their arms out like that, like a letter T, so that you can take the top off, and then you can run down this arm, down the chest, back up, down there, and then do the same on the back. But sideways onto the audience so everyone gets a good view. I've not seen that in print. I've seen the technique in print. It's in Delabar's book, who was one of my mentors and tutors. And similar things are in other books, but I've never seen it in print where it says, do it exactly like that. Yeah, that's exactly how they did it on Rajan and the Evil Hypnotist. Made by Objective Productions, who, oddly enough, had bought the HYPNO-TRICKS DVDs that's on, off us a few months earlier. So, on Catalepsy, that's the other one they did. Oh, the wonderful, the bugbear of stage hypnotists everywhere, because we're the unethical ones, you see, stage hypnotists. Ooh, you hypnotherapists are the serious side, we're the fucking nasty bastards. That's what happens if you go to any of these Hypnotherapy Association meetings and all that. Fuck off, it's all the same technique under a different name, used a different way. You're still doing a bloody show anyway, just you're doing your show perhaps to an audience of one at a time instead of in front of more people. But catalepsy, yeah, the body comes stiff, rigid, you put the ankles on the back of one chair, and then the shoulder blades on the back of the other. It's just, whenever you see a photograph of that, it looks like it's their neck that's on the back of one of the chairs. Because of where you line it up. And it does look like, from the front, it's the neck. It's not, it's the fucking shoulder blades here. And at the other end, it's their ankles, so that the feet bend over. So the feet are hanging over that part of the chair on this side, and on the other side, the head's tilting back, so their body arches upwards, like a cantilever bridge. But obviously, prior to having got somebody to help you lift them up, you get them to stand feet together, hands by the side, and then take tight hold of the side of your trousers. Now what they've done is effectively braced themselves with their arm so that this bit is solid. So by the time their ankles get on the back of this chair, hanging over that way, the shoulder blade here hanging that way, the body arching up, and the little bit that's left in the middle is actually braced almost entirely by their arm. It looks impressive, but anyone can do it with at least 10 seconds training.
Why try that way?
If you want to knacking your back up. No, that is the unfortunate side effect. I happily will if you want, but you know it's on the hypnosis. But it does actually potentially fuck people's backs up. Although I do end most of my shows doing it, but they will wake up a bit sore the next day. No long-term damage, but they will wake up a bit sore. And when you get somebody to stand on them, it's positioned, so it's weight distribution. One foot goes above the knee here, and one just below, kind of where the rib central area is. And the weight distributes down across them, down the back of the chairs, which incidentally, you've got somebody there standing on it either side, so that when they get lowered down, they don't suddenly go inwards and World War III disaster zone insurance claim. It's fucking physics, but presented to look like it's hypnosis. Many magic tricks, especially those that you will find in 13 Steps to Mentalism or in my book, Confessions of a Hypnotist, which we've got just a couple left, or Confessions of a Psychic, which we haven't got any of with us, I don't think, but you can get it on Amazon.com. Many of those tricks, with a little bit of common sense, which I honestly believe you've all now got, if you didn't have it before, you certainly have now after this weekend. You can take the building blocks you already know, slot in one of these tricks, and suddenly you could start a bloody religion. You could start a new flipping entire discipline of therapy and start running your own courses and ripping people off for 1,500 quid, 2 grand for 9 days, boring and stupid. That's all it is. Nothing has changed in this business in hundreds of years. Only the price of training, the price we charge the clients, and what fancy title, name, or advertising employees use to get the clients. Whatever you call it, it's still all the same shit. Very quickly, because Bruce, what if the client comes out, what if they come out of the trance on stage? We covered that. You make them look a bigger tit so that the rest of them are then more motivated to carry on. What if an abreaction happens on stage? You instantly say to all the other volunteers, look at me, nice deep breath in, and just sleep, 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 sleep. Because by this point, you put the post-hypnotic in that whenever you say sleep, and indicate who you're talking to, they'll close their eyes and put their head forward. And then you go to the one who's having it, and it's alright, on the count of 3, you'll open your eyes, you'll be back in the room, you'll leave that behind, kind of thing. 1, 2, 3, and then you get rid of them. You don't want the fucking grief. You don't want to be doing a therapy session on stage. Because otherwise hysteria will come in and these people will think, why does that person sound upset? Then it can become contagious and fuck the show. What if there's accidents? Common sense. But it would behoved you if you were doing a stage show to have at least a basic knowledge of first aid. If somebody started having a fit because they lied and they're actually epileptic, approach them from the rear. A lot of that's common sense, but what if they're sleepers, they're attention-seeking fuckers then, aren't they? But you can make that funny by just leaving them there and keep going back to them during the show and pointing and going pfft. And then at the end, need be, the magic pin that's going to, and if need be, as long as you stand in a position where their body's hiding it, you can kick them in the back. Allegedly. Obviously, I would never have dreamed of doing something like that. And failing that, you threaten them with the fact that if they don't wake up this time on the count of 3, they'll never be able to feel this good again, which is a slightly more Alman Erickson friendly approach to it. What if they claim they're not awake? At the end of the show, oh, I'm still in trance. They're attention-seeking fuckers. They just basically want you to spend a bit more time with them and go on, take an answer every 3 They're trying it on, basically. They want the show to continue because they felt good, because people were applauding them. It's all about massaging their ego and manipulating them, as we have covered over the past 2 days. What if they won't wake up? We just covered that. It's brew break time, but I'll see you back at 4:30, albeit that we've not got hardly anything left to cover as such, but I'm sure by then, at the end of the brew break, you might have thought of some questions. So I'll see you in 25 minutes.